Self-confidence on the twin flame journey comes from 4 moments. Well, at least these are going to be 4 moments that I remember vividly at this time when I look back over my twin flame journey that I completed. And I also want to start with saying that what is more important on the twin flame journey and in life than self-confidence? Feeling the self-love, feeling that you can trust yourself, that you have faith in yourself so that you have trust in yourself and in your actions and in what comes out of you, and that you feel confident in being that. What is more important in life? Oh my gosh. And isn't the twin flame journey like such an invitation to, well, repair that? To feel that? If you are self-confident, if you build on true self-love that is connected back to the divine, to the fact that you are divine. And we have tremendous wounds in that. I had. But there have always been these beautiful moments of twin flame self-confidence that were like anchors throughout my journey, in which I knew that, yes, this is really true. And over time, I learned to stand on these moments, and because they held, I knew I could walk. And the first one is this. I remember that when we went to Union, I did the twin flame inner work. I went through a transformation, and then there he was, just my twin flame. He just came in. He came to my home. We had a conversation. We were the best friends ever, like out of nothing, like, well, in our case, we had done that before. We were just best friends instantly when we met up again after a couple of years again, and then again, and then again. But I never before really got, in my case, I couldn't get all the information together in one and say, yes, this is my twin flame. Yes, this is the man connected to what I feel in my heart, and that just, it all fits, and I choose it, and I go in here, and I take responsibility for that, and I don't look back anymore. That's what was difficult for me. But it's not that he was not in my life, because he always was. So, yeah. That might be your situation too, or not, it could be very different for you. But for this video, we'll just use my story as an example. So this is what I call a real union moment, because this is when I finally accepted that I was at the beginning of accepting that this was the guy, and this was it, and this was all, and I was going to go in and never look back again. That was the beginning of that. That's what I call my union. And we also realized that we liked each other on all levels, right? Lovers, friends, teacher, student, everything was there. So finally, and I came there because I did the twin flame inner work, what I now pass on. When we sat there in my living room, oh my gosh, we had a conversation. I guess I can't even tell anymore what exactly it was about, but we had already been talking for a while, and out of nowhere, I started crying, and I didn't even know why, because I didn't make that soul decision yet that I finally got everything together, but my soul already knew before I made the decision, before I understood it, and I just burst into tears, and I didn't know why. It was really like the brain was like, well, we were just having a conversation with an old friend. Isn't that nice? That's cool. Well, I have something more to do this afternoon, but this is cool for now. And so that was like the brain, like reasoning it that it was normal. But like the soul knew, and I just burst into this emotional gap or something, and he leapt up and knelt at my side of the couch and held my hand, and okay, and then I didn't even know what to say because I couldn't explain why I was crying. And I think we sort of talked a little bit more after that, and then it was sort of time to say goodbye, and then even that was so weird because like out of nowhere, it was not thought out, it was not planned, it was not in our conversation. We just both got up at the very same time and hugged each other, and we didn't even know we were going to do that. We did not know. It was like just came out of nowhere. Remember, the brain said that we were just catching up with an old friend, and that hug that took far too long, you see, like what was going on? And at the exact same time, and we did the exact same thing. That was it. And that's how I could see later on, like, okay, so we do the exact same thing at the exact same time, even when our brain thinks something else is going on. It just bursts out of the depth, and there it is. And that's when we together made a new step in our togetherness. And that is how I started to trust and have self-confidence on a journey. Because apparently, if you let it, it just bursts through to the outside. And we do it exactly at the same time, even though we don't even know that we're about to do it. And that's the movement that the ego cannot organize, that I started to trust, because I could see now that this is what was happening. 2, I remember going time and again to the supermarket, because don't you also go to the supermarket, to get some fresh produce and like, I don't know, flour to bake my bread and things like that. And then the supermarket would play this silly background songs, from the radio or whatnot, that are like hip or like old fashioned, but well known, but maybe I wouldn't even know them, but often I did. And then it would be this song that had this lyrics that was like, oh, he's saying that to me right now. Something that he wanted to say just got into the lyrics that were in the song in the supermarket. And it would just reach my ear, reach my heart, and was like, that was actually just a message from his heart to mine. And it just made so much sense. And these moments of magical coming together, of union taste, the taste of union, started to feel so true. And I knew that these things were happening to give me the self-confidence to keep on going, because it was true. And that helped. And it helped to recognize that. 3, the moment of him sending my false twin flame away. Can you imagine? When we went to that union moment that I discussed earlier, I still thought that someone else was my twin flame. It was actually my false twin flame. It was hard to let go of the brain's idea of what was going on, that we were just old friends catching up. And there was still this lingering idea, like, yeah, but didn't I have this guy that I thought was my twin flame, and what to do with him? Well, my twin flame knew what to do with him. I didn't. Because I was still partly listening to the brain that still wanted to have a solution for it or something, or wasn't that a true twin flame? And what to do with these thoughts about, wasn't this a true twin flame? Just ignore them? But how? How to bring that to a close? Well, my twin flame knew. Can you imagine? It just happens by itself in the dynamic between you and your true twin flame. He knew what to do with him. He sent him away by telling me to tell him, the false twin flame, that he should show up with much more value for me to consume. And he was right. So I gave this false twin flame the choice. And I really pushed him in a corner with it. Like, either you do it, or, well, that was basically it. Not interested anymore. And I really kept it at that. I kept him on it. And, you know, that took a couple weeks. Maybe like 2, 3 at most, in this whole gesture of, for God's sake, either you bring it to me or not. And then maybe another 2, 3 weeks until the aftermath of it actually told me in my heart, I think I got it, you know, the one that really loved me was the other guy. Because he knew that the false twin flame should come up with something better or fuck off. So who loved me? Well, the true twin flame did. This has given me such self-confidence to see how my true twin flame did that, and me simply accepting it. That gave me the self-confidence. 4, the twin flame moment of going from narcissistic abuse wounds, which I had from my childhood out, to not having them anymore, having brought this minus wounded reality to 0, and then to above 0, to knowing my worth. Because all these moments together brought me into trusting something else, that something bigger than me was steering me. And I chose that. And that gave me the consciousness state of harmonious twin flame union that it's really all about. And this healed my trauma completely, going from being wounded of narc abuse and being sort of minus 0 in the whole self-confidence game to 0. And then growing in my self-confidence towards, well, where I'm now. And now I can look back on that whole development. I know what this all is, what it did to me, how important self-confidence is. And I know what I build it on. I build it on that bigger heart that connects us both. And I hope that helped. Love from Petra.